Terrible weather slows down the fastest pace that SpaceX has ever had. Today at Starbase. While there's not a ton of news to talk about today, we do want to talk about the weather at the very least. Late yesterday, as the weather began to deteriorate, SpaceX began battening down the hatches down at Starbase to ensure that all of their equipment wouldn't go flying all over the place or float away in a big torrential flood. While most tank watchers evacuated to higher ground and drier places, Mr. Paul from OceanCam decided to stick around Starbase and watch what happens as the weather deteriorated. Thankfully, nothing seemed to be permanently damaged as the weather has begun to improve today. However, work did almost come to a complete halt yesterday as all of the teams were scurrying around the huge puddles that were accumulating along the road and in the production facility. Looks like everything is intact though, and hopefully we'll be back up to operational status very soon. Huge shout out to Paul from OceanCam for sticking with it and hanging out down there during this big storm, and very exciting to see all the lightning strikes that NASA spaceflight was able to capture with their RoboCams. While I did say that SpaceX slowed down their production cadence yesterday, they did not stop for good. This is Elon Musk's company that we are talking about, and if there's anybody in the world that doesn't allow anything to slow him down, except for possibly an actual law of physics, it's Elon Musk and his company. So we were very excited to see that SpaceX was able to stack the final post, the corner post, for the 8th tower segment. This is the final piece of the final tower segment that we've been waiting for, and now that it's complete, we're excited to see SpaceX continue building out the rest of the 8th tower segment until it is then complete and ready to be rolled out to the tower and stacked and make that tower as tall as it's supposed to be. SpaceX was also able to move their thrust simulating ram in the rain last night to its current position underneath the test stand A. That's where the BN3 booster is, and we'll likely see it complete a bunch of pressure tests with that thrust ram in the next few days. Hopefully this storm didn't damage BN3 in any major way, but seeing how it is literally a huge grain silo and there were pretty high winds there last night, we are a little concerned. And finally, SpaceX files with the FCC to get permission to use their Starlink terminals to gather more telemetry data from Ship 20 and future missions. Currently, SpaceX uses a mixture of both Starlink and traditional radio communications to get live video feeds and telemetry down from their starships down to the ground. This is obviously not optimal because we've seen multiple times that during the flip maneuver, there's some issues with the connectivity, which isn't the end of the world for us live streamers, but at least you need to get the telemetry down on the ground as fast as possible. One of SpaceX's solutions to this is actually relying a little bit heavier on Starlink and adding more user terminals that are pointed in more directions on the Starship to ensure that there's always a good connection with Starlink. And as we know, Starlink has a pretty high bandwidth, and I'm sure SpaceX will make sure that that data is prioritized on their network. Alright, that's it for today at Starbase. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter at Today at Starbase. Godspeed.